Hey everybody, back with another video. It's been a little bit since I've actually wanted to do one, but I've picked up this Sencore computer monitor analyzer CM2125. They also have one that's a CM2000, if you can see that. This is a CM2125. I think it just supports higher resolution, I believe is the main difference. Not positive about that. I haven't even learned how to use it, and I've been kind of doing some research and learning about it and experimenting, so I figured I would do a video and just do an overview. So I plugged it in. Basically, as you can see, it comes with the reason I got it is a few things. One is I already have a TPG. I'll show you that in a second, actually. All right, what I was saying is I already have a TPG test pattern generator from CraftyMech, and this really is all you need for testing arcade monitors. You do not need something like this. I was just curious, got this on eBay for about $50 shipped. It was super cheap, and it had a few features that I was kind of interested in as I mess with monitors and get deeper into monitor repair and troubleshooting. But the TPG works fine, and it puts out different test patterns. So this does the same thing. Computer monitor analyzer. You have different test patterns that you can put out: raster, dot, circle, color bars, starburst, multiburst text. It's really for testing computer monitors, not arcade monitors. Some of the features you can do is you can do inverted video, so you can actually have, instead of the video blanking signal be 0, the blanking signal is 1, and the video signal is 0, or that's reversed. You can have negative or positive horizontal and vertical sync, as well as composite sync. You can actually have sync over the different color lines. So like I think on Apple computers you can put sync, or on some computer monitors like Apple or something, they might have sync over the green video line, and you can do that. You can turn on interlacing or not. You can turn on or off the RGB signals. You can adjust the horizontal frequencies, etc. So very, not complex, but very thorough capabilities as far as controlling the video output signals from your horizontal frequency, which in arcade we're going to have it at 15.7 almost all the time, unless it's medium res, as an example. Your vertical frequency, which is going to be typically between 50 hertz and 60 hertz. Most likely arcade games are almost always 60 hertz, except for I think kicks. There might be some others that are around like 56 hertz. And then your horizontal and vertical pixels, which in arcade games is going to be around, 288, 300 horizontal, maybe on a Williams game, but most of them are around the 240, 256 kind of range and stuff for your horizontal and vertical. Almost all of them looks kind of square. Like Pac-Man is like 288 by 224, for example. Let's see what else. Okay, but the reason I got it, which is kind of interesting, is it has a ringer test. So you can test yokes and flybacks and switching transformers for open or shorted windings. You can also drive through 3 volts up to 300 volts peak to peak certain signals, and you can choose what that voltage is and then what signal you want to drive, and then you can put that on a monitor chassis to see kind of where it's broken. So like if you think you have loss of horizontal sync, you can take the horizontal sync signal and drive it at a 3 volts peak to peak. Or the horizontal drive obviously would probably be closer like that. I don't know, I haven't messed with this yet, so this is just me kind of talking through it. And you can also do the ringer test and do some high voltage probe measurements here with your DC voltage measurement. You can plug in your test leads here to your high voltage probe and measure that. and then this is your drive input. So, all right, with that, let me just flip it around and show you the other thing is it does have a cool little pull out. You can see this okay. Little card here just says computer monitor analyzer. I'll just go through here real quick. Let's see. Oh, this is kind of got a big glare. Let's see here, page 1. All right, page 1 just tells you the pinouts of, and there's PDFs you can download of this. It shows you the pinouts of the DB15 connector there and what they do, what each line is for. And this is important because mine did not come with any adapters or cables, so I have to make my own. And then it shows you kind of, if it came with adapters, it tells you what its connector chart are for, or reference. So like connector 1 is CGA, connector 2, but I don't have those. Then it gives you this monitor setup information, where it's like pre-stored based off of certain kinds of monitors, like VGA 1, 640 by 350 at 70 hertz. So it's telling you what it's pre-configured as. VGA 2, VGA 3, and obviously that's got like something like, I don't know, 42 predefined ones, and then you can define your own at between 43 and 69. I'll show you that in a second. And then just some high-level stuff, about how to do some of these tests and using the drive single, using the ringer test. All right, so that's just that little operating guide. Let me, on the backside, have a fan as well as a fuse. Actually, I'm not going to mess with it. There's a fuse for the ringer test and a fuse for the AC line test. So, for the AC power coming in. So, obviously, if you power this thing on and it doesn't come on, check your AC fuse. I haven't read this about the ringer thing yet, but I guess it's a separate fuse for that test. And then you also can hook this up and drive this over RS-232 through like some IEEE, standard computer interface thing. So there's an interface accessory jack right here that allows you to do, either RS-232 or send commands to it from a computer. So, all right, let's power this. So just in case, let's see here, you get one of these off of eBay or something, I'm going to power it on, and it will run through a basically diagnostic test, and you'll see basically every single one of these lights light up in sequence, and then you'll get some digits over here on this display, and then your digital display over here will also zero out. So if you turn it on, all right, and then you got to give it about 10 seconds. You can actually hear some relays clicking in there, so for everything to reset. By default, I know it's not really illuminated very well, but by default it will bring up its last settings. Can you see that? There we go. That's 15.7 kilohertz, 256 pixels wide. And if you want to just recall, one of the things you can do is just hit recall 1, enter, and then it should show you 18.4, 720 pixels high, 50 hertz vertical refresh, and then 350 pixels vertical. So that's 720 by 350 at 50 hertz, which is pretty interesting. And then you can see that everything is saved in that memory, non-volatile memory. So whether this computer monitor is digital or analog, it's all set up. Whether the video is on the positive, horizontal sync is positive, vertical sync is negative. That could change the mode of a computer monitor, depending. The monitor will basically interpret the positive negative combination here to tell it what kind of mode it's operating in. And then you have your RGB and interlace here for the digital there. I think that's for interlace as well. Alright, so let's do that again. Or actually, let's do recall 0, enter, and we get 15.8, 640 pixels by 200, 60 hertz, and our digital display shows zeros. So let me power this off real quick. and it should come back to that setting that we were just on, the last stored setting. Yeah, so you see it goes do-do-do-do, and then it goes into the last setting that it was at, which is 15.8, 640 by 200. Alright, so that's the power on test. So what I did is I basically got a six cable wire, and I basically wired it up for composite sync based off of this chart. Here, I'll show real quick again. Right here. So composite sync on pin 7, red, green, blue. I got my composite sync. I think I wired up vertical sync, but I don't use it on this one. And intensity is not used on arcade monitors. That's like a digital monitor thing. And then obviously ground, right? And you could use red ground, green ground, blue ground, or ground. They're all connected. I tested this. They're all connected to each other. I might show that here in a second. But that's really all you need, is basically 5 or 6 to hook it up to my Sony PVM, which is actually playing some football right now. Giants Bengals. So what we're going to do is actually plug this in. And let me hook this up on a tripod here. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually program this to be more arcade-like. So we are going to set, well, first off, we want RGB to be enabled. We don't want it to be digital. We want it to be analog. And we're going to be on negative horizontal and vertical sync, even though I'm using composite, so it doesn't really matter. We're not changing the composite sync signal here. And so that's a good question. I wonder if the sync is definitely negative composite sync. I don't know. Can't change it as far as I can tell. I don't think it doesn't change anything. But we definitely want the video to be positive. And just to show you what that looks like, there's my PVM real quick. If I change the video signal to be negative, you can see how it changes the screen. It goes black because now it's outputting the opposite. It's putting out colors during the blanking period, which is going to be at the bottom, obviously, or at the top. What do they call that? The front porch and back porch or whatever, like something like that. So that's what we want, is positive like that. And we are going to set our horizontal frequency to 15.7, enter. We are going to set our vertical frequency to 60 hertz. And we're going to set our horizontal pixels to be, let's do 288. Whoops. 28 vertical. Dang it. Horizontal pixels 288. Enter. And then we'll do 224. It's like Pac-Man, I guess, for vertical. Enter. All right. And let's see here. Okay, and then we want to store that, so we have to store it. We're going to store it at the first number, which is, I think, 43. Or we can do the last number, 69. It's easier to remember. Store 69. Enter. So now if I hit recall, and I know you can't really see that. That's the one thing, is these LEDs don't light up very well. It's clear as day for me to see it, but through that camera with the angle, it's bad. Let's see. Does it make it better? Not really. Alright, so we're going to do recall 0, enter. And it recalls our 15.8 kilohertz at 640 by 200. And if we do recall 6.9, enter, you can see that the 6.9 was coming over here in the digital display, we're back to our 15.7, 288 by 224 at 60 hertz. So it's kind of cool that you can actually set the resolution. Now, I don't know what happens is when you set this pixel, this is the total pixel line. So this includes the front porch and back porch. When you set something custom here, what the Sencore does is it does an 80-20 ratio split of what your blanking signal is, basically. So it's not going to be just like an arcade board based off of what I understand, because the number of active lines and blanking lines is really different, almost per PC, not per PCB, but it's different. And so this would be 80%. So whatever, take 288 times 80, and that would be your active lines, times 0.80. That would be your active lines. I'm not going to do it real quick, but anyway, you get the idea. Basically, this is not going to emulate an arcade board exactly unless we do some additional settings to set those blanking periods and stuff. All right, but that's getting a little too deep here. Just starting off. So anyway, so this is set up, and I have my setting up on raster, and we see that I have a teal screen. Oh, my battery's about to run out. So basically, I know something's wrong with this system. So what I did was turn off my green and my blue, and you can see I have nothing there. My red is not outputting anything, whether it's enabled or not. My green, that's green, doesn't look very green, looks odd through the camera. And blue works. And let me charge my battery and I'll be back. Alright, so while my battery was charging, I actually took a VGA cable, cut off one of the ends, and wired up VGA. Shockingly, color codes didn't make any sense. Like, red is definitely not red. But anyway, I had to follow the pin out. This is in the documentation for the CM2125, and I just looked at, I think, I might link to a PDF or something, but the intensity lines aren't used. I think red ground, green ground, vertical and horizontal sync, no 5 volts or intensity. Yeah, so anyway, but so there's a few lines that aren't made, and I just want to make sure it works. Okay, so basically I have, this is a multi-sync, what is it, an NEC multi-sync 1960 NXI. I haven't even looked up the specs, but I just went to my little cheat sheet here. It says XVGA-2 for 1024 768 at 75 hertz. Got a horizontal frequency of 61, a vertical frequency of 75, of 75. And that's basically your refresh. 1024 768. So you just hit recall 36 and hit enter, and we have our, basically you can tell it's not digital, it's analog. Video is positive, H sync and vertical sync are negative, and the sync on green is enabled. And then you have your RGB turned on. And you can cycle through raster, dot, circle. That's dots, can't really see it. There's the circles for convergence things. There's our color bars. Now we know the colors are off because I'm missing red. Staircase, windows. This is, I think, for, Windows is good for checking your high voltage. Then you have, this is multi-burst, which is basically checking your monitor resolution, because each one of these lines is a certain number of pixels. I have to read it, but it's checking your resolution at different areas of the screen. I don't know exactly. And then you have text. It shows you how clear the text is. And you can cycle through these by just hitting recall 99, enter, And then basically, so you don't burn in an image if it was a CRT, it'll just cycle through all of the, that's dots, circles, and then color bars, etc. So we know my issue with red and green, and by the way, to stop that, you just hit recall 99, enter, and it goes, and it stops that. And if I hit just blue, you can see there's blue, and if I hit blue off and then green, there's our green. If I hit red, nothing happens. So I know there's something in here that's messing up with my red. But first try, didn't screw up anything with VGA connector. So I'm going to trim this up and actually put something on it for the VGA. But I actually have, that's pretty cool, I have a VGA tester now too. So I just hit recall 42, which is says DEC for DEC, Digital Equipment Corporation. It's a 1280 by 1024 at 60 hertz. Vertical frequency 66, 70 horizontal frequency 1280 by 1024, and that's what you see there as well. 70.7, yep. 66.5, 1280, yep. Everything's there. One of the things that's kind of cool about this NEC is it'll actually show me what it's displaying, so what the signal is. 1280 by 1024 at 66.3. So this is saying it's receiving 66.3, and this is saying it's putting out 66.5 vertical hertz. So that's pretty interesting. I mean, it's off by 2 hertz between what this monitor says it's receiving and what that's actually putting out, but I'm sure there's some variance there, or you need to like calibrate this thing potentially, so I'll maybe do that. Is there something else I want to show? No, I think I'm going to start troubleshooting it. That's kind of the generic overview of the video patterns. I'll probably do a series of videos on this thing because I'm still learning a ton about the different things you can do with it. I'm not going to mess with the ringer test and the output drive until I need to. But I am going to pull it apart and troubleshoot in this video the output of the red signal. So I'll be right back. Alright, so let's see, there's a little bit of glare there, but basically I have it set back to arcade settings, 15.7 kilohertz, 60 hertz on the vertical, and it's 288 by 224. And I have it hooked to raster, and we have that teal image on my PVM. So what I wanted to do is just show you real quick. If I come to one of the grounds, which could just be the case, can you see that okay? Or hopefully you can put it over here. And I come to the red, I have no voltage. But if I come to the green, I have 0.37. Now this should be anywhere from 0 to 0.7 in analog. If it's digital, it should be... Actually, let me change it to digital and show you the difference. We got negative 0.29. If I invert that, oh, duh. No wonder it's negative. I have my leads wrong. Yeah, 2.9 volts in digital, but in analog it should be 0.7. Anywhere from 0 to 0.7. So it's changing, obviously, peak to peak, that is. So actually, yeah, I could do a voltage peak to peak measurement. One of the other tools I got recently that I haven't done a video on because I haven't even tested it yet is this HP 5005B. I have my 5005A, and I saw one of these for a reasonable price, and I just think this would be better on my bench, so I picked up the 5005B. It's really the same as the 5005A, but anyway, I can measure voltage peak to peak that way. And I can also use my scope and measure the frequency measurement, but we basically just know I'm not going to do all that. We just know that there is no voltage coming out on the red pin. Oh, am I getting some voltage? 0.2 versus 0.3. If I turn it off so that there's no voltage on any of the pins, what's zero voltage read? 0.023. Yeah, my red is basically the same. And if I turn it on, turn the red signal on, it doesn't change. Whereas if I turn the green signal on, it goes to 0.378. So something's up with the red output, the red video output. So I'm going to open up this case and let's see if I can figure it out. I don't know. The schematics aren't great, but they are probably close enough where I'll get a clue, I think. Hopefully something easy to fix. Okay, some quick disassembly, mostly for me. Each of these covers on the back, like these rubber mounts around the side, have 4 screws, 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top. And this one was actually missing a few screws, so I knew it had been worked on before. If you pull that off the thing. The other thing is, look at these screws here. That's loose. Some of the screws are loose. But once you take those off, then this thing just comes off. That's the bottom. And obviously it's unplugged. There's a transformer. This could... I have to look at the schematics. The schematics are available online. I didn't see a service manual that I could use. But one of these, obviously you have your display board. What is that right there? This has got to be your high voltage board, you know, is what I would expect. So your video board is either going to be here. You can see a couple ROMs there. What are those? 27. Shit. 27C256. Yeah, but we'll do a little overview, but it looks pretty straightforward as far as just getting these cases on. They just are kind of on there and then held in place with these front and back surrounds or whatever you call them. Alright, so I have the top part taken off as well as the bottom, and I suspect this is the video board. I'm going to look up in the schematic, but not exactly sure what all the components are doing. It looks like there's an Intel type CPU, some memory, another ROM. It might be the CPU board on the other side. That looks kind of interesting, like the legs. I don't know what's going on there, but here's a 15-pin connector, P15, and you can't really see it, but I almost guarantee you it's going to this DB15 there. This connector here, P30, looks like it's going to the CPU board. And this connector, P22, is probably going to this part of the display board. I'm not sure. But then you have the display board, video board, CPU board, and probably a power board. I'm just guessing, and after looking at the schematics for like maybe 2 minutes. So if this is P15, I think there's a protection circuit. Actually, let me unplug this P22 real quick. I'm pretty sure the CR, can't really see it, CR 110, 109, 108, 111, these diodes is some type of protection circuit. Obviously, there's some resistors here. It'd be awesome to get the service manual. If anybody has a service manual, it'd be great to get it so I could actually adjust it. But I bet those are to adjust something. There's some adjusters over here as well as over here. So this is probably in the digital voltmeter section, I would guess. but not sure. So, guessing. And then one of these IC chips is where the power is. So, hopefully this won't be too hard to actually track down either those diodes or one of these IC chips not outputting the correct voltage. So. Alright, I was actually wrong, by the way, about the power boards and stuff. But anyway, this is, found this on the web, Sencore CM2125 video generator operator manual. It's got a parts and schematic, and it shows the video pattern board on 2000 drive board. So flipped it back upside down. This is the video pattern generator board right here with the two EPROMs, and this connector, see the DB15 that goes right here to that connector right there. So, and obviously these are the diodes I need to be worried about, probably some of these around there, or the protection circuit, I think. This is the drive board assembly, so that's, I know it's upside down, but that's controlling the drive level, the 30 volts to 300 volts peak to peak. So that is going to this board right there, and I haven't obviously troubleshot that. I don't think I need to right now, but alright, so flip it upside down, video pattern board. Let me look at the schematic. Alright, so this could be pretty, hopefully, we'll see if it's easy or not. Came to the schematic, this is page 14. Here's your RGB and I guess interlace. Horizontal sync, vertical sync, composite sync. And this is the connector P9, which is right there. So red comes to test point 14, comes to this RT1, which then comes to this IC68. And then I start looking around here in this, if I can get out of the shadow, and here is IC68, and it's completely missing. It does look like the solder job was pretty decent, but obviously they couldn't get the chip, or I can't find one either. It's a CA2003 buffer amplifier, and I think anything EL2003, CA2003, I don't know. I can't find one right now. But this IC70 is to the interlace output, is the buffer amplifier for that. There's buffer amplifiers for composite sync, horizontal, vertical. I don't know if those are it, but RGB, interlace, and then all your syncs. So basically, I'm going to pull IC70 and put it in IC68, and I might socket it, I guess, but I'm not going to do it today because I got to take this board out. This seems like kind of a pain in the ass, but if that fixes it, that will be cool. And I don't really need the interlace function, but I can always see if I can find one, and then I'll know what the problem is. So, alright, so yeah, obviously somebody else was already working on it, pulled that chip. They suspected that was bad. I don't know if there's anything else wrong. Looks like these are some variable resistors here too. R46, R45, all those resistors. I don't know what those are to. Interesting. A lot of stuff you could probably mess with on this thing. Real quick, I took out the board. I didn't show all this, and then did the swap of IC70 with IC68. But I just wanted to show that I did not have to remove this extender for whatever that is, the drive input. You have enough room, just disconnect these connectors here, unscrew the board, disconnect that connector, these two connectors, and you have enough room to kind of bend it out this way for clearance, so you don't actually have to remove this, which is kind of nice. So let me pause, flip this thing back around, and let's see if we have red. Flipped up like this and powered on. I don't know if you can see it, but I got god darn glare. I can't even see through the camera. Anyway, it's hooked up. It's 15.7 kilohertz, 288 pixels by 224, 15.7 kilohertz horizontal frequency, 60 hertz vertical. And I have it hooked up to my PBM, which is right there. And if we hit red, we have red, which is good. And then if we hit green, we have green. We have blue, which is good, right? But if I turn them all on, red, green, and blue, I should have a white screen, and I have really a pink screen. So red is being overdriven real quick. And I just measured this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this with my camera. I might have to put it on a tripod, but I'm just hooking it up like this and measuring the voltage. And I'm getting 6 volts on, and I could probably measure it peak to peak because I bet the VPP is probably too high. Actually, I might need to hook up my, maybe I'll turn that on. Let's do that. I'm going to measure voltage peak to peak on this because I'm getting, you know, an average, I guess, of 0.6 on that red line, and it's around 0.3 volts on the green and the blue. So I know something is not adjusted correctly. The red is not adjusted correctly on this, and it's overdriving the red. I powered this up real quick. I'll have to troubleshoot this. I haven't even tested it. I had bought it off of eBay, and I haven't even tested it, but it didn't look like my probe was working right. Looks like another video, because this probe should be flashing as soon as it gets power, and it is not. So there could be something wrong internally with this probe. I'm not sure. But hooked up my 5005A, and we'll put it on DC measurement. I could have done this with a scope too, but DC voltage measurement, and we'll measure, and I just hooked up my ground real quick. Hopefully you can see that. Onto the red pin, I'm getting 0.6 volts, and then on my, that's my green, 0.37. There's my pink screen, 0.37 volts, and then 0.34 volts on my blue. So let's change it to be voltage peak, because obviously this is not a steady signal. So we'll measure our voltage peak. I'm getting 1.2 volts on the red versus 0.7 volts, which should be the maximum. So the analog signal should be a max of 0.7. So I need to figure out, I need to adjust the blue and the green so they're both putting out 0.7. I bet that is an adjustment in here somewhere. Maybe one of these variable resistors, like R27 or something. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at the schematic real quick and see if I can adjust that. Alright, so I have it kind of rigged up a little bit. Jumpered on there, 1.3 volts. I did look on the schematic, and it is, hopefully you can see this. Oh shit. R45 is red, R46 is green, and R47 is blue. And I don't recommend doing this with a metal, but I can't, my plastic ones I don't think are working. I can't really get my plastic one in there. My monitor tools. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to be very careful. I'm probably gonna do it off camera because I'm kind of nervous. Oh, I'm adjusting it. That's turned all the way counterclockwise. Turned all the way counterclockwise, I have 0.8. And it's closer to white screen, so it definitely worked. But it is not 0.7, but there could be a reading, you know, I mean, voltage loss and I don't know how accurate that thing is either, so. But let me actually turn all of them down. All of them counterclockwise. It looks like that one's already counterclockwise. I'm going to do a little bit of messing around off camera. I'm just going to make sure power it off, turn all of those counterclockwise, and then we'll measure the voltage peak of each of the red, green, and blue. Oh, you know what? Those other ones are probably sync. R79 and R77. I wonder if I should measure those two. Alright, I messed with it a little bit more, and basically instead of getting them all down to 0.7 voltage, whoop, it flashed for a second, that was weird. Instead of getting them all to 0.7 for my voltage peak to peak, let's check our negative. 0.3 volts is our negative valley. Anyway, I don't have the calibration manual. I think there is a calibration manual. If anybody has it and you want to shoot me a link or something, that'd be great. But anyway, instead of getting them all to 0.7, I just raised red and green till they were also 0.8 on the voltage peak to peak, and now I have a good white screen. So I think we're pretty good there. That's the raster image. That's our dots, our circles. Obviously it's on the PVM. There's our color bars. It's a little gray over here, not as white as that, obviously. What's my contrast look like? But I'll also do this on a computer monitor. But anyway, on the PVM, it is not aligned 100% correctly. That's our grayscale, staircase, windows. Yeah, it's a little bit more gray. I mean, it would be nice if it was a little bit whiter. Well, that's interesting. There's our letters. I'm wondering if my contrast is kind of messing it up. Yeah, that's gray. Maybe if I turn my contrast up a little bit more. Regardless, I don't know, I'm kind of stuck at this point. I mean, I know that I have red now, so that's good. But I don't trust, obviously, using this to adjust any monitors. I'll have to experiment with it a little bit more. Let me see what I want to do next. But I mean, mission accomplished so far. Basically, I have the red working, and it's pretty much a white raster image on my on the raster setting. And then you got the dots, the circles look better. Obviously, it's not adjusted on this monitor. So I think I'll have to experiment with some arcade monitor settings. Underscan that a little bit. And there's some text. Huh. Interesting. So I'll have to mess with that a little bit. But anyway, there was somebody on the forums that asked how you could increase your voltage, because arcade monitors, oh, I didn't touch on this actually, I was doing some research last night. Arcade monitors do use analog, but usually it's 0 to 4 volts. The voltage peak is 4 volts. And this is obviously only putting out 0.8 volts. So it's not a super strong signal. Somebody had reported that when they were using this Sencore computer monitor analyzer to test arcade monitors, that the image was dim, and it's probably because the input signal is not out of 4 volts peak to peak that's coming off an arcade PCB. But they do make, because this is typically testing a computer monitor, which the VGA standard I think is 0.7 volts peak to peak. So you know, using this for arcade monitor thing might not work that well, but there also is an amplifier you can buy from. There's a couple example circuits for VGA to RGB arcade monitor amplifiers that boost it from like the 0.7 volts to 4 volts. So, all right, so let me put this thing back together because I'm kind of done messing with the internals of it for now. I think I'm just going to leave it like it is. I have it, you know, probably adjusted as good as I can get it on my own right now without having the right calibration documentation. So, all right, just to leave that. I can't leave good enough alone. I've started messing with this a little bit more, and let's see here. I put it on kilohertz, so I'm measuring composite sync, I guess. And I'm getting 15.7 kilohertz on composite sync, and I go to voltage peak. And I think you need to hit this probe switch to enable this switch, because now my light's blinking. I don't know, I haven't read up on this one. And my voltage peak on the red is now 0.605, so I could do definitely slightly different readings than my other one. This is the green, 0.75, and blue is 0.75, so I might adjust it a little bit more just to see if I can get it a little bit better. So adjust my red and green down to 0.7 and this one up, or yeah, that's what I'll do. Try to get everything at 0.7 based off of my 5005B. Alright, messing with this a little bit more, so it's just I was able to get a reading on my horizontal sync here. Just have to kind of see here. Come on now. There we go. 0.6 hertz. 0.60, I mean. 0.060, that's kilohertz. 0.060, which is 60 hertz. And then my horizontal non-composite is right there, 15.714. And then if I do my composite sync, 15.774. So basically probably add the 60, right? 774 minus 60 is 15.714. So that's definitely working. And then I'll change this to voltage peak. Hook this back on. Sorry guys, I'm holding the camera here. And I have everything adjusted now to 0.7 volts. There's red, voltage peak to peak. There is my green, and there is my blue. And this is my screen. Still looks a little gray. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty decent. See, I think that should be wider, but that could be because of the analog signal not being, like if I change it to digital, that's going to bump up the signal to a full 5 volts. Actually, let me do that real quick. Measure the voltage peak to peak when I'm in the digital mode. Yeah, I got 5.65 volts, which is obviously a little higher than normal for an arcade monitor. And that's why I need to turn down the contrast probably when I'm hooking up on my PVM. Yeah, so if you want to just, jump the voltage to digital, it'll go all the way to 0.5 volts. I mean 5 volts peak to peak, around that. So that's closer to the analog arcade settings. So, all right, let me put this thing back together. I don't even know if I'm making any sense, but it is pretty interesting learning about this stuff and the fact that this is, VGA puts out 7.7 volts peak to peak on the RGB colors, red, green, blue, and digital can display more colors, but more color combinations, I should say, but it also increases the voltage that it's outputting. So anyway, I think it's safer to stick with analog, do the 0.7 volts, and then probably get a VGA to arcade monitor amplifier that amplifies the signals. That's probably the right thing to do, but regardless, it still works. Alright, just out of curiosity, I have everything back together. Here's the CM2125, but out of curiosity, I hooked up my TPG to my PVM monitor, and I'm going to go to, it's also a little bit off, and I can't adjust the horizontal hold on this thing. I don't know how to adjust that. I don't know, but it's shifted this way. Even if I hit underscan so the image fits on the screen, it's kind of to the left a little bit. But I figured I'd do voltage peak to peak. Let's go to a white screen. And I definitely have to turn down the contrast and brightness all the way down on my PVM or it gets overdriven. So like, watch if I turn the contrast up. See, I don't know if you can tell that in the camera, but it starts to smear and blur and everything. And same with the brightness. If I turn it even to the midway point, still have good black levels, but it's a little bit too bright. So turn those all the way down, and then we're going to go to our white screen. No, that should be the last one is our white screen, I think. Yeah, that's white screen. All right, so I'm gonna have to cut out some parts, and so anyway, I hooked up my TPG. Have my signature analyzer 5005B hooked up, and because I'm restarting this, but anyway, I just wanted to measure the voltage peak to peak. If I go to a white screen, let's go, there you go. So there's our TPG, and we are going to a white raster. That's gray, that's white. Okay, and we're going to measure voltage peak to peak, and we're at 4.5 volts. 4.5 on red, green, and blue. And if we go to our, let's measure our kilohertz on our TPG as well. That's our vertical, 60 hertz. Is it because I'm doing composite? Or they're tied together or something? I don't know. There we go. That's 15.59. So 15.6 instead of 15.7. 15.6. Cool. So anyway, that's the voltage peak to peak that the TPG is putting out, and that's my white raster over there. It's definitely more white than my other thing. So I would say, I mean, I like the TPG, but this thing right here, at least I got it working. And you know, I'll do another video later on when I actually start messing with it, testing some monitors and maybe doing a ringer test or driving some outputs, because I am still interested in that. So, alright guys, that's it for this video. CM2125 and screwing around a little bit with my new 5005B, comparing it to the TPG, which is honestly cheaper, easier to use. I would probably use this for every arcade thing. No reason for this big thing, but if I was testing computer monitors, obviously this would be important, but otherwise no need for that kind of horsepower, I don't think, to at least generate a video signal. That's it guys. Hope this was useful to somebody. Until next time.